In a distant time, when the world seemed to have forgotten God, the heavens were silent. People no longer prayed. The hearts of kings were filled with pride, and sin covered the land like a shadow. Then God raised up a man named Elijah, a courageous prophet sent to remind the people who the true Lord was. But King Ahab and Queen Jezebel hated Elijah. They wanted him dead. And throughout the land, soldiers hunted anyone who dared to speak in God's name. While the prophet fled through the dry deserts, people lived in fear. No one wanted to be seen helping a man of God. No one, except a boy. In a small village, far from the palace, lived a young boy and his mother. They were poor, but their hearts were full of faith. Every day the boy watched his mother pray, even when food was scarce and water nearly gone. The sun burned hot, the rivers dried up, and the wind carried the sound of soldiers searching for the prophet Elijah. One night, as the boy looked up at the stars, he felt something strange. A gentle voice like a whisper spoke deep inside his heart. "Help my servant." The boy looked around frightened. No one was there. But the peace he felt was so strong that he knew it was God speaking to him. The next morning, he went to fetch water from the well. There, between the rocks, he saw a weary man with torn clothes and eyes full of faith. The man looked up and smiled. "The Lord has sent me to your house," he said. It was Elijah. The boy froze. His mother had warned him about the soldiers. Anyone who helps the prophet will be taken. But something inside the boy told him to stay strong. He ran home, told his mother everything and said, "Mother, he's a man of God. We have to help him." The woman hesitated, afraid, but when she saw the light in her son's eyes, she understood. This was God's will. Together they decided to obey. That night, the boy brought bread and water to Elijah's hiding place near the brook of Cherith. The prophet thanked him and prayed, "Lord, bless this boy and his home. Let their food never run out." Days passed, and the danger grew. Soldiers marched through the village shouting Elijah's name. The boy hid in the shadows, carrying food in silence, always watching for patrols. Every step was a risk. He knew that if he were caught, he might never return home. But he also knew he was doing what was right. One day his mother cried out, "Son, the flour is gone. The oil has dried up. We have nothing left." The boy lowered his head, not knowing what to say. Elijah placed his hand on the boy's shoulder and said calmly, "God will provide." That same afternoon, when they opened the jar, there was flour again, and the oil, once empty, was full. The boy's eyes widened. He ran to Elijah and shouted, "It's true! God didn't fail." Elijah smiled and said, "Those who obey God never lack the bread of life." But the danger was not over. The next morning, the sound of horses echoed through the hills. Soldiers were coming. The boy saw their spears glinting in the distance and ran to Elijah. "They're coming! Elijah, hurry!" The prophet lifted his eyes to heaven and prayed, "Lord, lead us in your way." They fled through the mountains. The wind grew stronger. The sky darkened. Then suddenly a mighty storm broke out. Thunder roared, lightning flashed, and rain poured down. The soldiers couldn't see a thing. Confused and afraid, they turned back, while Elijah and the boy escaped. The boy looked at Elijah and saw something he would never forget. Even in the storm, Elijah was praying. Standing tall, unshaken by the wind and rain, he spoke to God as a friend. And at that moment, the boy understood. True strength doesn't live in the arms, but in the heart that obeys. When the sun broke through the clouds, Elijah turned to the boy and said, "God chose you to help me. You didn't just save my life. You showed all of heaven what the faith of a child can do." The boy smiled, his eyes filled with tears. Not long after, Elijah went on his way, led by God. The boy watched as the prophet disappeared between the mountains. And in his heart, one truth remained: obeying God is always the best way. Years later, he never forgot that day. He told his children and grandchildren how one simple act of obedience brought courage, miracles, and life. The narrator's voice softens. Even though he was just a child, that boy did something great. He heard God's voice and had the courage to obey. What about you? Are you listening to what God is asking you to do? Sometimes He speaks to your heart to be kind, to forgive, to pray, or to trust Him when things are hard. Obedience isn't always easy, but it's always the best choice. God doesn't look for the strongest or the most famous. He looks for hearts that trust and obey. And when you obey, He makes miracles happen in your life too. So never forget, read the Bible every day, pray with faith, and trust in God. Even when you don't understand what's happening,